I never had a plan B.
Our first guest tonight has spent most of the past decade defending us from enemies foreign, domestic, intergalactic, and Jurassic.
Never really thought I would become a person who had a career in show business.
Please welcome Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt is one of the biggest movie stars on the planet.
TV star, worldwide movie phenomenon, and top-grossing Hollywood actor.
Does it ever get old coming to these premieres?
Never, no. This is amazing.
You're a leading man now. You're a superhero, a great dad. I mean, all these manly things.
Almost 300 pounds. Never really thought that I would ever be considered a candidate to play one of these sort of action hero kind of roles.
Homeless in Maui, huh?
Well, you're never homeless when you got a van.
Well, tell us about yourself, where you're from, and how did you get into show business?
I'm Chris Pratt. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. My entire family's from Minnesota. I was born in Minnesota. However, at about 3 years old, I moved away. I grew up in small towns that didn't really celebrate the arts like that. You know, kind of throwback towns with tough blue collar, you know, mill workers and loggers and, you know, very tough kind of culture. I find my instincts come from my dad. He was a contractor and my brother and I would go work for him. He was really tough. You know, he's an old school guy and I was pretty scared of him for the most part. I had that kind of fear. I was born and raised in a way that you respect your parents. You would never say no. And in a way, I kind of felt like maybe that compromised my connection to him in a way. I have a great relationship with my brother, who, in a way, as my older brother, really helped raise me and was a big part of my upbringing, loved me to pieces and still does.
At what point in high school, or whenever it was, you started thinking about one day being on the screen?
I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was very, very young because I saw my brother do it. I saw my brother do a play. He was Boo Bear in the Christmas musical. My whole life, I always just wanted to do whatever my older brother did because I just looked up to him so much. So I was like, acting is cool. Anytime there was ever a play, I always auditioned and got a part of some kind. I loved the spotlight. I loved the attention. I felt like I excelled in that world.
You spent some time in Hawaii. What were you doing there?
I had retired from door-to-door sales and I was living the dream. Mine since high school had been living in Maui. And he saw me and he was like, dude, what happened? I heard you were like in a sales company or something. I was like, ah. And he said, listen, man, I'm gonna buy you a one-way ticket to Maui. I've been living there since high school. It's awesome. He paid for my ticket out there and then I just basically moved there. I had no money, but I showed up and hung out with a bunch of friends and got a job at Bubblegum Shrimp Company. And I was like, 19, living in Maui, literally living in a van and was waiting tables at Bubblegum, maybe 20 hours a week, enough to basically get my insurance. And I didn't have much overhead because I lived in a car. People say homeless. We were just a bunch of kids living on the beach.
This, in a way, was your entree to show business.
Waited on a director who gave me a start. The rest is history. I picked up a shift, which I never did. I was always giving my shifts away. I picked one up for my buddy. And then I saw this woman that I recognized from the movies. And I think part of me in that moment was like, she's from Hollywood. Door-to-door sales. Go. Kick that door down. I waited on a director by the name of Rae Dawn Chong. She's an actress, but was directing a movie called Cursed Part 3. And I was just immediately like, you're a movie star. She was like, my name's Ray. She was like, you're cute. Do you act? I was like, fuck yeah, I act. Yeah, sure do. Put me in a movie. She said, well, give me your phone number. I've got an audition for you. And at the time, I didn't have a phone. I didn't even have a house. I was like, so I gave her my buddy's phone number. And then I went and auditioned. And halfway through, she was like, you're good. We're going to use you. She was like, it shoots in LA. And I'm immediately crestfallen, thinking, well, I've got about $60. I was like, I can't afford to go to LA. She said, sweetie, we'll fly you there. I got paid $700 to do the movie. And so it wasn't like they rolled out the golden carpet, but the door was cracked open, Now I had tape. Now I met people. I could start networking. I had a scene or two cut together from the movie that I could go and start selling myself. I had to get a job in Beverly Hills and start working as a waiter again. I spent the $700 on a car. I started couch surfing.
How soon after that does Everwood happen?
Hi, I'm Chris Pratt here with Everwood.
I had lived on very little money for a long time. So the first big job I got, I remember, was called a Schedule F job. And this was a TV movie. I got paid $75,000. I was like, I'm never gonna wait again. I was under the impression that I would never run out of money. The first paycheck I got, I was like, are you serious?
Bright Abbott is that guy that everyone had in high school that was obnoxious and arrogant and extremely attractive. And for some reason, they cast me, which is weird.
Traveled the world. I was like, well, I'm gonna probably invest. I'm probably gonna get a yacht. That was just a crazy amount of money. Never could have possibly imagined making that money. And it went very good.
Usually blow most of the auditions that I go to because I let myself get in the way of it. I'm like, oh,
I need to act. I need to be an actor for this audition. I auditioned for everything, and I would do anything. So all of those early roles were the result of someone else making the decision to hire me.
Honestly, the most life-altering was everything. I stopped being a waiter. That was 4 seasons of TV, money. Like, I was able to buy a house, buy my mom a house. Like, it changed my life. I had a career at that point. I want to never take life too seriously, and I want to always have fun, and I want to always make decisions that allow me to do that. I want to be a free spirit.
So this is the final season of Parks and Rec. How are you feeling about that?
I feel sad. I feel a little sad. It's been 7 amazing seasons.
You weren't even supposed to be a regular, right?
Not originally, no. I was just a guest star that came on for 6 episodes, and then they ended up keeping me on and putting me in every episode, all 7 seasons.
I really loved the idea of that mockumentary style. I thought it would be a good fit. I had no idea what it could possibly ever turn into. I knew that they did a lot of improv, and that was something I've always had tried to do in the previous jobs that I had.
I was playing this douche character, but they realized me trying to be funny and be Andy Dwyer was more effective in terms of evoking a comedic response from the audience than me playing a douche. And so slowly the writing shifted and I became Andy Dwyer. It felt like I was always just playing characters that were a little closer to myself. And, you know, I don't think I'm a douche.
On Parks and Recreation, were you encouraged to be pudgy on that show?
In the first couple of seasons, just unintentionally, I had gotten a little fat, and I was watching the episodes. I was like, oh, God, Chris, you've really let yourself go. And then I was like, but this is some of the funniest stuff you've ever done.
In that episode that I saw that I was fat, I was like, this is the funniest I think I've seen myself. Like, I might lean into this. Up until that point, remember, the only stuff I could do when I was in shape was douchebag asshole role. Maybe this is my chance to go to that next level and I'll be kind of comedic sidekick guy. I'll just lean into it. It fits the lifestyle I wanted to live at the time. I wanted to eat, I wanted to drink. I didn't want to have to exercise. All comedy lacks vanity, so I was like, throw vanity out the window.
And I went to Mike Schur, our creator, and I said, I want to gain like another 30, 40 pounds. And he was like, okay. And so I did. And then it became a challenge. Everyone wanted to see how much I could eat.
Would you have been happy kind of being the quote-unquote lovable schlub for another 10 years?
Yeah, for sure. Truly, the bar for me was set as, do I have to go back to waiting tables? If I don't, then I was going to be fine. The lovable schlub character, it's a working job in LA. Sure. You know, that's like a hard thing to come by. And I thought for a while that would be my niche. I thought, there's no one else really doing this.
I'd been seeing this sort of glut of action comedy coming out around that time, which was primarily like weaklings put into positions of power. That was like happening a lot, like fish out of water action comedy. I want to be able to like, literally kick a door down, but also find a way to make it funny.
I haven't always been fat, but I've been fat for a lot of probably the last 8 years or something, which is really fun and really great. I love eating food and drinking beer and having fun with my life. But I was also kind of depressed a little bit when I was fat. I had auditioned for so many roles that were written as the heroic leader of the group, and whether it be a Marvel movie or any of these other studios that were releasing these big budget movies that required an actor of my age, of my ilk, that had the it factor. It was all written in there. And I would go and audition. I wouldn't get callbacks, sweat through them. I would fail over and over again. And I was doing Parks and Rec at the time. I was a little chunkier, a little sweatier. I'm not working as a waiter anymore. This is perfect. And I thought I would be that guy for a while. I auditioned for them all. I had a rough run. Usually they give you a little bit of feedback. I remember the casting director goes, wow, you really made a big choice there, which is code for being like, hey, dial back the acting there, guy. Anything that came out that needed a guy that even remotely looked like me, I auditioned for in some way or another. I would either submit a tape and then they would say, no, we don't need to see him. Or I would get there and see them and they'd go, nah, that's the last time we need to see you.
I told Sarah Finn, who's our casting director, I really was looking for somebody who inhabited the role and went beyond it, in the same way Robert Downey did with Tony Stark. We saw a lot of people and they were really good, but nobody was quite there. And she kept saying what about Chris Pratt? And I'm like, you know, the chubby guy from Parks and Rec. I'm like, Sarah, get that out of my face. Because she would come up with some other bad ideas, too.
Anything that was like, this guy walks in, he's got the it factor. Over and over again, I was like, well, I definitely don't have that it factor they're looking for because they don't even want me to come back.
I had to go meet with another actor, and she said, okay, and then you're meeting with him, and then you're meeting with Chris Pratt. I think she just put one over on me. I said no.
We just want somebody to inhabit this character. And that's, in a way, a big benefit because I'm not going to be compared to anyone else who's ever played Peter Quill.
Chris came in and read, and he was maybe reading for 20 seconds, and I went, holy God. And I turned around to Sarah Finn, and I said, it's him. He's the one. The biggest worry was that he was, you know, heavier at the time, and could he lose the weight?
You're a leading man now. You're a superhero, a great dad. I mean, all these manly things.
What made Chris Pratt the guy to play Star-Lord?
I got to go in there and do my version of it.
You seem like a guy who takes care of himself pretty well. When I saw you in the movie,
I am not. That is.
Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
You got all ripped up for this movie. What was that workout regime like?
Man, it was a lot of crying.
Did you ever think like, ooh, maybe I don't want to play Star-Lord?
No.
No, none.
God, no. I mean, I had been dying to do something like that my whole career. So, no, I've been very grateful the whole time. Mostly, I set the bar low enough, don't want to go back to serving food to people. And then superhero was way above that bar, so I was going to take it.
Did you know Guardians was going to be special as you were filming it? Or was it one of those things like, this could go either way?
I remember we shot for about 11 days on Guardians of the Galaxy in London, and then we got to fly in a private jet from London all the way to San Diego for Comic-Con. We debuted some footage from this camera test and from like the 11 days that we had shot together, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God, this might be very special. This could be really good. And everyone lost their minds. We went and finished the movie, but I was like, don't get excited. You're just gonna end up getting hurt. I remember watching it in the first scene. I was like, this is really great. Oh my God, this is beautiful. And then you see Star-Lord dancing, and I was like, oh my God, I think I blew it. I'm so scared. I don't think anyone's gonna like this at all. Even walking out of it, I was like, I think that's good. I think that's good. But still, I think it's good because I'm in it. I still did just one of the lower my expectations. Then it came out, it was like this massive hit.
Had the biggest August opening weekend of all time.
This is a huge movie, and not just like United States huge. This is like China huge, Brazil huge.
The Marvel feature was also the second highest grossing film of 2014 and spent 5 weeks atop the box office.
Does everybody know you now as Star-Lord?
The thing that impressed me in both cases, regardless, irrespective of the material, you're sort of a natural goofball personality. We always get a taste of that.
Well, that's going away. That's going away.
I'm
taking myself pretty seriously from now on.
That's not going away.
People ask me, how are you casting this, kind of chubby guy from Parks and Recreation as the star of a Marvel movie? 5 years ago, I said to reporters, Chris Pratt is the biggest movie star in the world. It's just that people don't know it yet.
Our first guest tonight has spent most of the past decade defending us from enemies, foreign, domestic, intergalactic, and Jurassic.
The 2,607th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame will go to actor Chris Pratt.
It probably wasn't until Guardians of the Galaxy, after the success of that film, that I got into the position where I was the one who was saying yes and no, and that was the big change. I've always wanted to have the career I have right now. Early on in my career, coming to nights like this, I found myself really nervous, really anxious, somehow like even angry. I always had belief in myself. I think I've been driven, we didn't grow up with a whole lot. We had a lot of love and a lot of laughs, but other than that, didn't really have a pot to piss in. So I was a dreamer, and I never had a plan B. I'll tell you that. I just knew what I wanted. I went after it, and there's a certain level of luck that's involved, and opportunities have to present themselves. But once those opportunities were brought to me, I hit them full force.